Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU review show. Yes, we're heading towards the pointy end of things, folks. And we had four very close games this weekend. I think the biggest winning margin was 3 points. So yes, very, very close. All of the games of differing levels of enjoyment, I'll admit, when I was watching them. How are you doing, Ashwin?
Yeah, not doing too badly. Not too badly. It's just like, Super Rugby AU going, hey, look at us. We're getting some awesome games here. And then Super Rugby Aotearoa goes, hold my beer.
And my Boundary Road Brewery beer, if they would like to sponsor me. There you go, folks. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, we had four cracking games. Four cracking last 10 minutes. At the very least, of these games this weekend, with kicking off on Friday evening with the Rebels versus the Force. Now, Brendan on Twitter going, "Wow, this is one of the best games I've seen in Australian rugby for a while." And I'm like, "What are you watching? Seriously?"
I have to say, the first half was like pretty bad. The second half, normally I start to fade off. We talked about this last week, actually. I think it was start fading. It held my interest.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a much better
second half. Yeah, much better in the second half.
But how the Force managed to win this one? They only entered the Rebels 22 twice, whereas the Rebels entered the Force 22 8 times and could not come away with the win. So you've got to say the Rebels really, really did throw this one away, showing that they've got really good defence, well organised, but are a bit toothless at the end of the day.
Well, not toothless but it's weird, right? Because as you say, I mean, like really, how the Rebels didn't win that game, it's sort of like quite confusing. I mean, they really did have good passages of play. But crucial errors at wrong times. Even you look at the very end of the game, jumping all ahead as I always do. The hooter goes, the Force halfback goes to kick the ball out the touch and misses. And
yeah,
the Rebels don't get to convert.
He
missed the sideline.
Yeah, in caps, if we're going to do that. How did McGregor not find touch? Seriously, how did he not find touch with that one? He really, absolutely, really did bottle that one.
Execution, one of the things we talked about yesterday's game, actually, when we reviewed that one, after the game, and we're talking about execution. So I think we've watched enough professional rugby, particularly in the recent years. This is when the hooter goes, you run backwards away from your ruck, and then you kick it into touch. You don't take it out of the ruck and kick it into touch.
You definitely don't try and box kick it into touch from when you're not. Just what are you doing? Oh dear. Batman in the live chat says felt sad for the Hurricanes did not win. Not sad the Hurricanes did not win. Yeah, we'll get on to that game later. Boy, oh boy, on that one. Look, the yellow card. I think we've got no argument with that. Repeat penalties. We need a bit more of that.
Absolutely.
To stop people from doing these things. The Rebels basically kicked their way into a lead, and it was just 4 kicks to 2 kicks at half time. Another couple of penalties ended up being 1 try to the Force and 0 to the Rebels with their 8 visits into the 22. So yeah, not champagne rugby, but look, 16 turnovers by the Rebels. If you're going to do that, basically, sorry, you're not going to win many games at the end of the day. And the thing that really held back the Force, and we'll talk about, actually both sides here, was their lineouts. Somehow,
theme of the weekend.
Yeah, it was a theme of the weekend, exactly. Yes, somehow the Rebels lost 4 lineouts of their 16. Yes, the Force, anything you can do, we can do better. They lost 5 of their 12. 58% success rate with their lineouts. Now we'll get on to some people later who had even worse than that. But boy, oh boy, if you with that, if you're not going to give yourselves a platform, and when you see a lot of the one of the new stats that Sky is showing is where did play start that led to or did possession start that led to a try, and you'll find for most teams that most of their tries come from lineouts. So
you got to win them.
You got to win them.
Yeah, look, I mean, it really was just a case of both two teams trying to lose the game, wasn't it?
Yep, especially at the end there. Hodge had two. Well, they tried to set Hodge up for a drop goal twice. The first one, the pass just was bouncing along the floor as it arrived to him. There's absolutely no way he was ever going to get a drop goal off from that. And then the next one again was well over his head. Look, if you're going to give a guy time to do a drop goal, it's got to be out in front of him where he can just take hold of it and just concentrate, not on having to drag the ball back down and try and make a drop goal. Hodge was not to blame for that. The whole Rebels setup of just giving him, trying to put him in the right place for a drop goal was a disaster.
It is a bit strange on, this is a sort of a revolving discussion or repeating discussion around the Rebels backline. When you look at who they've got in their backline, I mean, it's Tamua, right, at first five until he got injured. So,
yep.
You have got, it's a quality backline that can't convert.
Yeah, look, I mean, they are missing a whole bunch of players who are injured. I mean, Dane Petty's out, but you've got Corabetti, who is one of the first names on the Wallabies team sheet, right? So your entire game plan has got to be find space for him and give him the ball, right?
Feed the Corabetti. But even then, I mean, as I said, when you got Tamua, you've got Hodge, and you got Corabetti. Half of your backline's got internationals, so you've got the capability, and even the halfback is a Wallaby half or has been.
Joel Powell in there, Stacey, and he's playing pretty well. Frank Lamani, and then Lewis Holland was the other person there. So, look, I say they are missing a couple of players with. But they've still got quality there.
But they've got players there. I mean, you just mentioned Lewis Holland. Lewis Holland's one of their 7 stars, if I remember correctly. So again, the caliber of player, although they're missing obviously some top players as well in that backline, their replacements are more than capable.
Yep. So it's this idea that the Rebels were going to be the obvious shoe-in for that to get knocked out in the semi-final or the preliminary final, as I think they're calling it. The Force have now closed that right up, so it's just 1 point behind the Rebels. Both played 6 games. The Rebels on 11 points, the Force on 10. So look, Force are with a shout here of making the playoffs, which I think coming into this season, none of us had them in that kind of position.
But aren't Force in 3rd place? I thought the Force were actually made it in. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, no. They're 1 point behind. They're 1 point behind the Rebels in 4th.
Yep.
Yeah. Now it's just because of a comment that the commentators made at the end of the game that they actually made it sound like the Force had actually gone into 3rd. Sorry, my bad.
So look, this one, I say, which team tried to lose it the least? And that was the Force in the end. They got the only try of the game, and well done to them. I mean, 2 entries into the 22, coming away with 1 try from that. That's a pretty good strike rate, but you need to get there more often if you're going to win more games.
We've talked about the Rebels, and I sort of think the Force probably should be playing a bit better than what they are. As you said, they need to get into that 22 a bit more often. But when we look at their forward pack and who they've got there with their internationals, they might be aging internationals, but they've got plenty of experience there to probably be executing now. I mean, we talked about earlier in Super Rugby AU, the Force team getting together, players meeting each other for the first time in game day and game round 1. They've been together for 6 games now, so they probably should be able to deliver a bit more.
I think it's still a very, very, very raw team from that point of view. Yes, they're past the Barbarians section where they do actually know each other's names now. But
got to know who the kids are.
Exactly. I mean, you got Cabelli and Miotti, right? You got a Haguari, not just Haguari, it's a Pumas 9-10 there with Lozana in there as well. Medrano. So yeah, look, they've got some international guys who are current internationals as well. We're not talking about your Kieran Dranis and your Jeremy Threshers, who are very much ex-internationals. We are talking about not Kieran. Kieran Drani was the wrong example. Kahui was the example I was looking for. Yeah, it's not. We're not talking Kahui and Thresher. We are talking current internationals in there as well. So yeah, no, they've got the experience that you say that they should start to be a bit better than this. To be challenging the Rebels. Look, we expect them to put away the Force. Sorry, the Tars when they play them again. Because I think they've got one more game against the Tars coming up, which should mean that they're going to be a really good shout, I say, to go above the Rebels in this one. There, and that was my first prediction of the weekend. I got wrong, and we're going to have a bit of a theme of that. Next up, something I don't normally have to do, folks. I have to go onto a second page with notes on this one because we went into into Golden Point. But look, part of the story of this one definitely was that clearly very windy conditions down in Dunedin because neither kicker could hit the side of a barn.
Something we alluded to. It seems that it was something that appears to have gone away. Early days in the Tupperware container, kickers for some reason did struggle to get the conversions, get the penalties over, but that seemed to be something of the past. But definitely returned with a vengeance on Saturday night.
Look, kicking percentages can be a bit kind of misleading, but 43% by the Highlanders at home. I mean, we're talking about the home side here. We're not talking about someone who is in town who doesn't know the conditions. That's shocking for the Highlanders, in all honesty.
Yeah, it was. I think we've alluded to possibly headed to look at the kicking options when Mitch Hunt was struggling early on. You could see. And I suppose they had a plan to bring on Joshuani at the 60th minute mark, roughly, or just before. Probably had to review that and look at possibly bringing him on sooner so that they could negate those kicking woes.
Yeah, if you've not got anyone else who can kick, then you do need to. Yeah, you need to find somebody. You have to bring someone on because it was shocking. That point, and essentially, look, in a 3-point game, they lost the game. With their kicking, Dane McKenzie's slightly better, 67%, but not where he would want to be in that side of things. Again, lineouts. The Chiefs should have been further ahead, but losing 4 lineouts. Again, just no platform for the players.
Yeah, I found that rather unusual because Takioho hasn't been doing too badly at lineout time. I thought leading up to that game. But he had for the Chiefs, that is, had a bit of a mare. So on the other side of the fence, Ash Dixon's a pretty reliable person to pitch the ball into the lineouts. So
yeah, and you're bringing on Bradley Slater. Bradley Slater's arrows are pretty notoriously dodgy.
I think he's got crooked arrows. That's the problem. Yeah. It's not fair. Let's not blame Bradley. He's getting crooked arrows to throw. And obviously, the last line out of the game, it wasn't really his fault, considering that they decided to lift the lifter when Bradley was actually looking down and holding the ball down around his knees, and they decided to lift the lifter. You can't really blame Bradley Slater for that.
No, you can't blame Bradley Slater for that. But what you can blame for that is how inexperienced this pack is, right? With your two locks in there, 21 and 22. All 4 of the locks are 21 and 22, so it doesn't matter which ones are in there. That's how old they are. And then you've got Bradley Slater, who is not a great line-out thrower. There really needs to be a leader in there that goes, guys, we have to concentrate here and look at each other and communicate. If he's not ready, don't step in.
Yeah. That was. I suppose the interesting thing is because you can see in that movement, the lifter, he wasn't facing Bradley Slater at all. He comes in head down, and just basically goes in and lifts the line out jumper straight away.
But yeah, it's. I mean, that's why teams walk in, right? Is because your front lifter has his back to the line out throw. So the throw, he doesn't. He's taking his cue off people stepping into the line out, and that's where he starts his count. So if the lock steps in, he's lifting. That's it. He can't see what Bradley Slater's doing. So it all comes down to the lock there, and the fact that the lock was then tapping Bradley Slater on the back, saying, "Oh dear mate, you made a bit of a mess up there." You're like, it's
dude. I mean, just going on Jordan Clark's, Mitch Hunt being second best. He seriously is a rocks or diamonds player, isn't he? He'll have those matches of just out of the bag, like he did last week against the Crusaders, or if you go back a couple of seasons when he played for the Crusaders. He just has those magical moments or magical games even where he's just on fire. But when he's not on fire, he's not just in the fridge, he's in the freezer. He's that cold.
Yeah, look, I don't think it was that bad around the pitch. We had a kick out on the floor. Perhaps he wasn't. He wasn't at the level he was last week by any stretch.
Yep.
His goal kicking was his general play was better than his goal kicking, which was abysmal. And he wasn't that bad. When you're giving up the number of turnovers that that we saw the Highlanders doing, I mean, 3 by Hunt himself actually. He was the top one, but Punavai with a couple, Garden Basham with a couple as well. You've got 3 guys there who are receiving kicks and running it back, right? You need to understand where you're running to and getting your support players with you. So I think there's definitely an element there of not again, communication, linking with your players just wasn't quite there. Whereas you had a spine with this Chiefs team of you got Luke Jacobson, Webber. I mean, Trask was in there, but really it was more Damien McKenzie, wasn't it? And Anton Leonard-Brown. With that, those guys there, all of them All Blacks or have got All Blacks experience. And it was really, to me, it was really those 4 guys who rallied everyone around them and made the key difference in this game to win this one by
3 points. Look, I mean, and the other thing is that I mentioned again on the review after the game is that not quite this, but Quinn Tupaea, he had a good game against the Blues. They had the bye week, and he's actually carried it on. We've talked about going prior to the Blues game, he hadn't really done anything. Big rep, even probably at NPC level, he hadn't actually done anything since that game. And then the game yesterday, I thought he was doing some nice touches until he got his unfortunate injury and had to be replaced by Alex Nankerville.
I think the number of line breaks he creates at NPC level showed you that he had something about him. And I think he made quite a good.
Never really quite won the game for the guys, though. He was doing some nice touches on that, but there's a lot of players doing nice touches at NPC level. You want those supposed star players should really be owning games, and I don't think that he'd done that.
And look, he's had 2 years of NPC. I mean, he's still a kid, right? I wouldn't expect to. It's still a bit young for him to be owning NPC games, in my view. But anyway, a player who definitely didn't own this game, apart from being in the forefront of the referee's mind, was Mitch Brown. Now, this is something that we've seen not only just in this game, but also in the Crusaders, the Hurricanes Crusaders game. If you're in front of the kicker, don't walk forward. You're not allowed.
Red light. Oh, this is ridiculous, and like you saw Dane Cole's, jumping ahead to a whole couple of games. But because just on this issue, you saw Dane Cole shaking his head, and it's just like, mate, your whole defensive line not just one player. Mitch Brown's case is one player, but the whole defensive line's coming up. The idea is, not the idea. You're offside. You have to stop. Otherwise, it's cheating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and look, and whilst rugby is basically legalised cheating, the idea is to try and get away with as much as the referee lets you. In that one, especially in that Hurricanes Crusaders one, we shouldn't really get onto that game yet, but Geordie Barrett kicks the ball and then walks backwards. He doesn't even run forwards. You're like, hang on, the players on the side here.
Look, I mean, as I said, I mean, I made a comment during this afternoon's game, and not specific to this afternoon's game, is that whilst our game has gone professional, the players still lack a level of professionalism. And that's another one. We talked about in the Crusaders, in the Highlanders Chiefs game at the drop kicks and how they were setting up for drop kicks. Geordie Barrett running backwards without the nous to realise, being a professional player, I've got to put my players on side. Again, these are the sort of things you have to be switched on. You have to know that. You have to. It's Moneyball, right? You do X, you do Y, you do Z. That's it. That's what you got to do. You got to know that you have to follow through with this. This is the process. It's a job. You go into a job, you do the task, and this is how you do the task. Here's the process to do the task. No different. Rugby's no different. I'll kick the ball up the field. I have to put my players on side. And whilst I'm doing that, maybe I have to yell at one of the other guys, get back and cover the returning kick.
Yep. Now, and one of the interesting things about watching actually European rugby, and especially the Six Nations, is that because they've had no fans, you've been able to hear the players shouting things. In some of those. And there's a great one during the Welsh France game of one of the players running up shouting to someone, cover the pont, because they know exactly what's about to happen. And one of their players runs sideways along beside the pont because they know when the ball gets run back, he is going to be in the position to take an offload and they need to smash him.
You got to cover DuPont because he's slippery.
Yeah. Straight over the top. Yep. Anyway, I'll just keep going. Paul.
Who created non-stick, Paul? Who created non-stick?
Teflon.
DuPont.
Oh, okay. DuPont. There you go.
Teflon's a brand.
Not listening to Teflon then. Anyway, so one of the things that came in this one was the tweet went out today that look, the three best fly halves in the country have all missed drop goals in the last 24 hours. Dane McKenzie managed to miss one. The Highlanders gave him another chance. He missed that penalty kick. Josh Ioane, why the Highlanders? I mean, we covered this in our post-match reaction, but for those of you who didn't see that show, Josh Ioane lines up for the drop goal straight in front of the posts. Now, we know Mitch Hunt can hit drop goals in clutch situations. It's proven. Sure, off the tee, he wasn't great today, but his general kicking wasn't that bad. Josh Ioane lines up in the wrong place, straight in front of the posts. He should have been across to the side. And you've got Mitch Hunt. Why are you giving it to Josh Ioane? Mitch Hunt should be in there, should be taking that one. Again, game nous, game situation, lack of game awareness, making some problems there for the side.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, what I mentioned just a few minutes ago, for that level of professionalism and ticking the boxes. It's like when you set up for a drop goal, you set up to the left. If you're a right-footed kicker, you set up to just of the left, in line with the left hand upright. So then you're hooking it back in over the black dot. If you're setting up in the middle or on the right-hand side, you're most likely going to be off balance and kicking it across the face, or off balance and just kicking it wide.
So one of the things that Scott Barrett's mentioned about after the Hurricanes Chiefs Crusaders game was that they'd watched the Highlanders Chiefs game and they talked about it and prepared for that situation if they got golden point. You're like, guys, you shouldn't have to see someone else doing it first. It should be one of those scenarios that you've ticked off in pre-season and you know what you're going to be doing. As the Clive Woodward used to do for England, it's called Teacup, thinking clear under pressure. The way you think clear under pressure is you run all the scenarios beforehand so you know what you're going to do. You don't have to think and work it out. Because if you're trying to work things out when you're tired, you're going to make mistakes.
That's what you do in a job. Look, you got a manual. The manual tells you what to do. It's not rocket surgery, is it?
No.
I mean, it's just like, and you know, something like, which way to run into? Do you run into the wind or do you run with the wind? If there's no wind, you don't have to worry about that. No, if there's no wind, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to worry about kicking off. Is which Aaron Smith made the right decision. I'll kick off. I'll kick deep in it. Didn't work out for them, but at the end of the day, it still ticked the right box in terms of won the toss. It's not about if he was facing a gale, you would still kick off because you want to get into the opposition's 22.
And look, he had the opportunity. He gave his team the opportunity to win it, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep, he did. Yep, they stuffed it up. Yep, fluffed their lines, as one would say.
If you aren't practicing these things at training, what are you doing? Says Oren. Well, practicing other things, I think, is the answer.
Talking about how you're going on Call of Duty.
Exactly. So what does that mean? That means now that the Chiefs are up into third with 12 points in the table, just 2 points behind the Blues, with both sides having played 5 games. So, look, a tight one there in the table now for that third place with the Highlanders on 10 points, but they've played a game more. Hurricanes on 6 now. Look, you got to say it's too far back for them. You'd expect to make it into the top 2 now, but Blues, Highlanders, and Chiefs all very tight there around that one. That one there. When is the party of Joshua Arnie's? I'm not sure when it is, but anyway, you better just keep the noise down.
I was going to say, just keep the noise down. Just turn the amp down a bit. not so much doof doof.
Yep. Look, after a poor start by the Chiefs losing the opening 2 games, that's 3 on the bounce. They've won now. Clay McMillan will be in a much better, we're having a much happier camp, and things, moving in the right direction for the Chiefs, which is great to see for them personally. And I will be at the game next weekend and able to hopefully interview him.
And the coaching staff will be happy because the Karma rubber band seems to be working in their favour. With the final penalty going their way, where it should have actually gone for the Highlanders. And it's just like the match-winning penalty should have gone towards it. Should have been a penalty Highlanders.
Now, we are nitpicking here with the refereeing because on the whole, the refereeing this weekend has been good. Let's be blunt.
Absolutely. Yep.
Look, we expect the odd call to go wrong by the referees, right? We don't expect it to be 100% perfect, but they didn't seem to have any clangers this weekend on the whole. Maybe a few cards could have been higher or lower. I think Lamapi might have got away a bit lucky with his one today, but apart from that, I think everything. People were all. They got most of the important decisions right. One thing that has definitely, that I think has happened now, is the teams have got used to this whole captain's challenge thing, haven't they?
Some are good. No, let's put it this way: some are better at it than others.
Yeah, but we had 5 this weekend, right?
Yep.
In the first 3 rounds, I think we had like one of them. Well, we had 2 attempts. One
so
of
they started to understand us.
Was way too late. The captains are getting in getting to the referee much quicker, and they're being much clearer of what they're asking for. So I think it's starting.
The one that really got away is that Aaron Smith should have been doing the captain's call on that last on that last penalty in the extra time.
Especially when you've got nothing. Yeah, basically, look,
you got nothing to lose. That's it. It's like the number 11 batsman. There's nobody else to come. You got a review in the bank, so you send it upstairs.
Yep. So that was that. I guess that's going to be the new one. So can number 2, folks. And for those of you from Singapore, you might recognise some of these bars like Molly Malone's and BQ Bar and Bull and Bear. Yep, that's been lifted from one of those bars. They've been relieved of one of their bar can coolies a number of years ago now.
Thief.
So we then we headed towards what I thought was going to be the game of the weekend. Really, look, Reds versus Brumbies. repeat of the final from last year. The Reds having a perfect season up until this point. What was likely to be the final preview of the final this year. The Reds having beaten the Brumbies in Canberra. You're thinking, right, the Brumbies need to make a statement here with this one. And the Brumbies came out firing and got themselves the line-out maul try, which the Brumbies are known for. Banks.
That's unusual for them.
I mean, look, there are 10 teams in Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU. 9 of them should kick sticks. 1 of them shouldn't. That one team where I agree they should go the corner is the Brumbies. Everybody else should be kicking sticks, in my opinion.
To be fair, I mean, like we've probably been harsh on the Brumbies because all they do is wait for a penalty and then they kick into the corner. But in saying that, they've actually adapted a little bit. So they are ready and set for when the rolling maul sort of falls apart or isn't going anywhere. They got good backline creativity to do something and score tries in the opposite corner as well. So you do sort of see that see that sort of coming into their play now, where their backline is actually an attacking weapon inside the 22 off that line out in the corner.
Look, they have a whole bunch of varieties off that line out. They can maul. They've got fake. They've got line out mauls. They've got fake line out mauls. They've got line out and off the back moves as well. So they've made it much more difficult for teams to defend. Yes, in past years they were just line out maul. They added the fake maul last year, and this year they've added some backline moves to it as well. You're right. They do have a whole bunch of options there, which is why I think they and they have a line out that hit 8 out of 8 lineouts. They have they don't
accurate lineouts. To be fair though, the best lineout move of the weekend was Lynch's, right?
True.
Now we're going back a game.
Back. Lovely lineout move by with Lynch's try. Very well played, and you've got to say, very well played by Frizzell, who really sold that dummy very well.
So, not like Artie.
Dummy run.
Not like Artie sells a dummy.
No, what you mean the national storage big dummy? It's branded now. There's none of this. Arnie Surveyor is contracted to throw a national storage big dummy every game. It's fun with sponsorship.
Hey, just in terms of I always felt with the Reds, if they didn't let the Brumbies, it wasn't. I don't think it is the Reds. If the Red supporters would have got too concerned with the Brumbies scoring early. I think they just needed to make sure they stayed in touch, so to speak, because the Reds always seem to come home with a wet sail. Wasn't so much of a wet sail this game, but that's what the games has been. Tupou and like crashing the ball up as tiring defenses struggle to contain them. So I think at halftime, although I think the Reds had actually gotten ahead by halftime possibly, but
at halftime it was 6-15. So actually a decent a good two score lead for the Brumbies at halftime. Halftime going in, it's going well there. But you think the Reds beat the Brumbies with the last play of the game or with the last score of the game down in Canberra. They beat the Rebels with a late kick as well in that first game that they played. So 3 out of their however many games they've won now, 7 games.
At the death,
they have been won at the death. So and when you think about how they put away the Waratahs by 40 odd points, I think in both of the games against the Waratahs, it's the fact that they know how to win games.
Yeah.
John Pataya is a good player. Should he be playing on the wing? Do we want him more at 13? I think we want him more at 13 personally. Nocturnal Rights, Josh Fluke impressed me at 13. Yeah, he played well, but it was a bad combination for them in that having 2 light ball playing centres in there.
Pretty fluky.
Fluke was dearing me. Fluke played well for his first time, but he could have done. They need one of those 2 players to be able to crash it up
Yeah, I think with some of the ball that they had and the way that the play was broken, Paisami would have been quite handy on the night.
Oh, absolutely. He's.
There was some good broken play.
I
that
wouldn't
he
be
would have.
surprised to see it being James O'Connor with Tamua coming off the bench with Hunter Paisami and Jordan Pataya as your centres. I don't see why you wouldn't start with that. I say, yeah, with Tamua coming off the bench. But that's the Wallabies, by the way. If anyone's wondering.
We haven't transplanted Tamua from the Rebels to the Reds.
So look, Brumbies would have been happy at half time with that lead, but
the Rebels, as I said before, the Reds wouldn't have been too disappointed where they were at. They knowing that they can pull it out of the fire in the last 20.
Yep, no, exactly, and that's what they did. Reds 2 tries to 3 tries from the Brumbies. So again, James O'Connor's kicking being a big part of this as well. James O'Connor really has matured well at the Reds, and it's been good to see how he's playing over the last season as well as this season. But yeah, he really is a very different player than he used to be.
He's not overplaying his hand. He's just getting the team around the paddock very well and making sure they're in the right parts of the field. That crossfield kick from him was pinpoint and brilliant. So he's just executing and making sure that he executes his role well, and he's not getting carried away with trying to do anything more than that.
But he still had the skills. He still had the vision to take running moves on when they're there.
When they're there.
Yep. So yeah, he's not a pure guide you around the pitch, fly half. In fact, they're just purely kicking and passing. He does also have some moves as well. Has a bit of X factor, which is also good.
Yeah, and just what Nocturnal's saying, it's funny. I mean, like, although it was only 3 points in the end, wasn't it? Or 2 points, but the Reds did show patience. And watching the game while it was live, it did feel like the Reds would run away with it in the end. They didn't manage to quite do it, but it just felt like they were sort of like the Reds would come through.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, but they scored just after they scored first in the second half, but then off the restart, they don't catch the ball. They're then off feet to the ruck. They allow the Brumbies to kick to the corner, and suddenly the Brumbies score twice straight back. And you're like,
yep.
Okay, Reds, perhaps you're not on your game tonight. So they were that. They definitely could have been more clinical.
Yep.
Around that sort of stage. Yeah.
Again, a bit of a yep. I was going to say, and a bit of a theme there again across the weekend in terms of teams, leaking points and then coming straight back and hit it, at the kickoff, scoring again as well. So that happened a bit across the weekend as well. So something for all teams to tidy up.
That was a key one for the Highlanders, wasn't it? The Highlanders always allowed the Chiefs to score straight back again.
Yeah.
And I think the Hurricanes did it as well. So, any final points on the Reds Brumbies?
No, I think it really, like, a good crowd. The crowd slowly coming back in Brisbane. 20 over 20. I think it was 22,000. We were talking about sub 10 not too long ago. So 22,000. They've basically locked in the final there. So be good to. I think if they can get a really big crowd out there, I doubt they'll get a sellout, but it's good to see good signs in Australian rugby for teams that perform. The crowds will come along and watch them. We know that that's the case at the Brumbies. I mean, the Brumbies, the crowds probably could be better, but when they're winning, they get decent crowds in as well. So you win, you get crowds.
Yep, no, that's true. Yep. But just a note here for New Zealand rugby and the provinces: you can't rely on winning as being your only way to get new crowds. You need to improve your marketing, folks.
Well, I mean, you write this one down because otherwise I'll forget, and you'll ask me later. But something for Tuesday night is that the fact is, I think part of the problem for New Zealand rugby, and luckily the last 2 weeks, even though the result was, the Canes didn't quite get the result today, is that if everybody feels that the Crusaders are going to win, there's no excitement in the competition. People aren't going to turn up to watch the games, are they? if they just think, oh, it's just a procession and the Crusaders are going to win. So, unfortunately, it's just not a good thing for rugby if one side's winning all the time, and that can sort of be at our NPC level as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at something like think about when Michael Jordan with and this is one for Tuesday night. But yes, we will have a chat about because obviously you think about someone like Michael Jordan or with the Chicago Bulls or someone like Tiger Woods who were continually winning. It was good for basketball. It was good for golf. So we'll have a chat about that as to why doesn't it work the same way in rugby. But yeah, we'll have a chat about that one as you say on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. for the Driving More show, folks. Where it's about all the hot topics in rugby globally. So do join us for that one as well. My favourite place to join me. Join us on Facebook if you can at New Zealand Sports Radio. Facebook page would be great. So should we crack on to the last game of the
Lolosea.
Increase their cloud. I have no idea what that was all about. So we'll move on. So Hurricanes versus the Crusaders. Coming into this one, I didn't give the Hurricanes much of a chance in this one. If we're going to be totally honest, I thought that the bounce back that the Crusaders we were going to see from the Crusaders after their loss, along with what do you call it? Along with the light pack, relatively speaking, of the Hurricanes, was going to make this one-way traffic. And at 3:14, with after Bridge had scored 2 tries, I thought this game was only going one way. Let's be honest.
Oh, look, it was a comfortable win in the end for the Crusaders, wasn't it? No, look, I'm totally with you, mate. I was just like, oh god, here we go. George Bridge scored 2 tries, and George Bridge coming back, right? I mean, I think he played last week, but obviously that was his first game after injury. This is like, here we go, George Bridge doing what he does best, completing the end of the chain, and beating a couple of players to make sure they get the points. So yeah, after his 2 tries, it's like, here we go, and also on the back that I think it was the second try where he does get tackled short, but rubber, it just always works out nicely for Crusaders. He ends up rolling around and rolls onto any legitimate try. Absolutely, I'm not saying it was dodgy or anything, but this is like any other team, and there would have been a body in the way, and he wouldn't have been able to roll, and a ruck would have formed, so no try. But look, it just looked like everything starting to go the Crusaders' way, but no.
Not so much as the Crusaders' game plan is busted despite winning dubiously. I don't think they won dubiously at all. To be honest with you, on that one, I think they won the game fair and square. Again, one of the points is refereeing didn't decide this game. Now there were towards the end, I think the whistle might have been put in the pocket a little bit during regular time. I think there was an element there of him going, "I'm not going to win this game for you, folks. You're going to have to win it yourselves. I'm not deciding this one."
I'm gonna change that a little bit to what you just said. I think it was a matter of I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to guess at like that scrum. There was a scrum which sort of disintegrated almost, and it was like it was a Crusaders ball, and it's like ball's out. He didn't have to make a call. Ball's out, and this is like, and I think he was sort of like, I'm not going to guess at what's gone wrong here, and get it wrong. If I can't see what's wrong, there's nothing to call, right? And that's always the case. If you can't see it, you can't call it. And I think that's what it was. Case of I'm not going to call it what I can't see or guess.
Not so much as things that the Bridges' first try was a forward pass in there. It wasn't from the camera angles we had. It wasn't conclusive that there was a forward pass.
I sort of a little bit disagree with Stephen in our chat group that we had. I actually thought the Moanga pass to Reese was forward because the hands at no stage the hands actually look to be passing the ball forward to me when they're going forward. So it's actually forward out of the hands as opposed to going backwards.
And Jordan Clark says another reason for us to go with Silver Lake and having the Silver Lake deal is that we'll have enough money for sky cams. We can actually see where the.
Interestingly enough, I think that was the was it which game? There was a game. It might have been at Eden Park, and they actually used footage from above, like what we would say to the sky cam. It was actually the drone camera because there was no sky cam. It was drone footage that picked up the pass and said it was fine. So I think you don't even have to go to the expense of putting sky cam up there. Just get the drone and get that flying around.
Yeah, I think I'm still not sure if they're allowed to put the drones over the ground yet, because quite often, because the drone at Eden Park normally sits over the
west stand.
Oval,
yeah,
behind the west stand, doesn't actually go over anybody. I think they're still scared of it falling out the ground, falling out the sky.
Somebody shooting it.
But anyway,
yeah, no, I actually thought, look, just going back to those comments from Aaron and from Nocturnal, is that to me that ball, the hands were never going backwards.
Yeah, well, anyway, yes, Simon makes the point, the responsibility is Sky, not New Zealand Rugby, yes, but hey, it's all in the contract, and New Zealand Rugby owns part of Sky, remember? So, hence why you'll see people like JK being currently employed by Sky to be on the breakdown and to say how wonderful the Silver Lake deal is and how everyone should just trust New Zealand Rugby. Not that he's a company man or anything. But anyway,
I get a tinge of feeling that Paul doesn't think they should go ahead with the Silver Lake deal.
Well, I think there should at least be some. I don't think you should say just trust New Zealand Rugby to the players. They have your best interests at heart. Hang on.
It's like there's more discussion left on that for Tuesday night.
Yeah, probably.
Because I actually think, like, at the end of the day, the Silver Lake, we don't want to get into this rabbit hole down whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, there's no option but New Zealand Rugby to go with Silver Lake because the money on offer is just too big to say no to. And if it doesn't, rugby in New Zealand has a real unknown future ahead of it.
Well, it's definitely a period of change in New Zealand Rugby. We have a number of deals coming up at the moment. But anyway,
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Let's move on from that one then. And actually, on that note, I have put out a supporters special for Your Ears Only show and podcast, which looks at the New Zealand Rugby's choice of sponsors, not just for the NPC or the provincial champ, but also for the jersey as well, and my opinions on how they've gone about their partnerships. So go and have a listen to that.
What do you mean? What do you mean? How they choose their support of their sponsors or whatever? It's just like, it's obvious. You're rugby. You have to have a construction company as your sponsor.
Perhaps not the best choice to go tell people 1 year, if you want to buy a hammer, go buy it for ITM. Next year, if you want to buy a hammer, go buy it from ISA 10. 2 years later, if you want to buy a hammer, go buy it from Bunnings. Look, hey, we have total credibility in everything we say. But anyway,
actually, really sad for Joe Moody in his 100th game. Absolutely correct. I mean, it sounds like it's a possibly a serious injury from what Scott Robertson saying. Also, Goodhue, his injury also sounds serious as well. So it's quite sad in your 100th game to come away with it. What he was first half, was it the injury? I think off the top of my head.
They lost both Moody and Goodhue in the first half. Moody came back on with a moon boot, which is never a good sign. And Goodhue having to be helped down the sideline towards the changing sheds again, not good either. Simon, I'm sorry you're having issues putting comments on my For Your Ears Only video. I'll get in touch with you. I've got your email address. I'll have a chat with you, find out what you want to talk about that, and I'll have a chat with you about it. I do appreciate all the supporters when you do the sport radio. It does mean the absolute world to me, and allows me to do a lot of what I do. And allows me to have the tech to do what I do, which is just as importantly. So there we go.
Just on that injury front, I mean, what a performance from Marty Severe, though. You know, I mean, like in a losing effort, if you can call it that, just absolutely amazing. To go on as long as he did with the injury that he received, which looked to be not insignificant, and still carry on, and what he achieved I thought was just amazing.
Look, I think that I'm mixed on this one. It is amazing what he did, being injured the way he is. Should we be allowing players to play on injured like that? I don't think so, because I think we're allowing them to be in a situation where they can just do themselves more damage long term. And I thought he should have been pulled off by the coaches. I don't think they should let him be on there like that.
Yeah, but the thing there was the fact that at the end of the day, I actually felt that game was in the balance. Either team could have won it, which basically the golden point and three short of shows, 3 points drop kick there. But the real difference was when Artie actually left, even on one leg. It was that was the game changing moment for me. From that point on, when Artie left, although Canterbury never really took over the game, they seemed to be in the better parts of the field and just having the better moments of the game.
I know. I agree. The game was in balance, and they need him now. Stefansson and says that players know their bodies to a certain degree. Yes, and he says they also know they also know the risks. No, not necessarily. Personally, I think these guys are highly competitive people who will go well beyond the level they should do for their own good and their own long-term future to win a game. And I think Ardie's one of those who will push way past where he should be pushing for his own well-being to try and win a game for his mates and for the team. So I think sometimes it has to be taken out of the players' hands for their own wellness, which in the long term is the right is the club's wellness as well. Where do you stand on this one, Ashwin?
Oh, look, I don't know. I mean, I sort of think for my mind, other than concussion, at the end of the day, if the person can't run around and be effective on the field, then you know that they're a liability to their own team, so they're going to take themselves off, or the coaches are going to take them off. I think if they're not a liability to the team and they're running around okay-ish, you carry on. Concussions is a totally different issue. That's the no way that they say. I mean, like how Aotearoa Black didn't go for a HIA last week is just mind-boggling. But so sort of, to me, yep, carry on playing pretty much. Just if you can't, you come off. If you can, you carry on. You know that you're going to affect the team performance if you're subpar. But sorry.
If you know you're out for the next 6 weeks, you go as long as you can for the team. Agree, coaches make the final call. I guess my point is, yes, you know you're going to be out for the next 6 weeks, but if you stay on there in that stage, you're more likely to get hit again and be out for 6 months. That's my my opinion. And people are entitled to theirs as well. That's fine. I'm happy to agree to disagree on these things.
Yeah. But I'm sort of thinking, going back to the game, it's just like, is an interesting one, because that first sort of, I think, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 minutes or maybe less, the Canes actually had a lot of the ball, but they weren't going anywhere as well. So it felt like, it's going to be a bit of a humdrum match where, like, the Canes can't really execute anything. They really can't get anything going. But at the end of the day, it actually ended up being a cracker of a game in regulation 80 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Namua, another player who really stood out for me, not someone I've kind of necessarily rated, particularly in the past, but he had a particularly standout game. Needs to figure out where to pass to next time, sometimes, but the breaks he was making were brilliant for him, and also
Asafa Amua, you're talking about there?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I thought also the Canes scrum held up pretty well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I repeat myself from some other shows, but Stephen and I have mentioned this on previous shows numerous times. When the Blues were doing well, when the Crusaders have been doing well, we've talked about the fact is that if any Super Rugby team doesn't turn up, the other team will beat them. And we saw that last week with the Highlanders, with the Crusaders not turning up. This week, I think, unlucky for the Canes, they could have tipped over the Crusaders. If teams don't turn up, they will get beaten. So at the end of the day, you've got to, it's actually quite even. I think maybe in the last two rounds, some of those teams have actually worked out, or New Zealand Super Rugby teams hopefully have worked out. Look, you can beat the Crusaders, but you got to make sure that you don't give them time and space. Because if you look at today, a lot of it's not about you got to execute your game plan. You got to not make mistakes. We know that, but the thing is that's a pointless thing to say is not make mistakes, because every rugby team is going to make mistakes. The Crusaders, when they're firing, make mistakes, right? The fact is, what you've got to do is cut down their time and space to allow them to execute. And that's what you got to do. If you stand there and watch them actually play their moves or do their moves, you're in trouble.
Yep, no, absolutely. We saw that the Crusaders make mistakes. You've also got to be in the right place. And now I know you're not a fan of Julian Surveyor on the wing, and I'll be honest, I'm not fully either. But he did get himself in there for a try by being in the right place with Blackwell and making the effort there.
I was just going to say, I'm typing away. You know, this is our chat that we have during the games, people. But it's just like I put a few comments where, oh, this is just going to look like I hate Julian Severe. I don't hate Julian Severe. I just sort of think, look, when you got a Salisi Rayasi and a Wes Houston, if you're trying to fit those two in there, to me, those two are ahead of Julian Severe. Julian Severe is not bringing anything special to that Canes side like the old Julian Severe that says that he's an automatic pick on the wing for the Canes, right? Whereas a Rayasi is creating, a Wes Houston is on his feet and dancing and getting the gaps. Those guys bring something extra to that Canes team. That's the reason why I sort of think that, I'm surprised that Savier's there ahead of some other players.
I'd say that Houston hasn't been that great this season, but he had a good game today. I thought
a good game today,
back to his kind of his best play today.
Yeah, but again, if you're not getting regular game time, you're not going to be that great either. But speaking of people that haven't had game time, Dane Cole's probably had his best game back since his prolonged injury break, and that battle that he had with throw in, sure, but around the field, turnovers. Him and Cody Taylor were basically going turnover for turnover. It was like, Crusaders turnover, Cody Taylor. Hurricanes turnover, it was Dane Cole's. They were basically 1-for-1 ding-dong battle there. It was great to watch. I thought it was actually a fantastic battle between the two, apart from the line-out throwing.
Look, again, in our private chat, Stephen Harris was like, why don't the Canes, the Hurricanes, go for a shortened line-out because they keep losing their line-outs? Well, the reason they were losing their line-outs was because Dane Cole was overthrowing the whole time. It wasn't because they were getting stolen, per se. And it doesn't matter how many people you have in the line-out. If you're overthrowing, you're still going to be overthrowing. So I don't think it was so much, but yeah.
But, actually, talking of overthrowing the line-out, and, coming back to sort of more of the intricacies of the game, sort of, it's just like the Canes really got to go home tonight, or they'll be home tonight now, but they're going to be looking in the mirror and saying, we lost that, because Geordie Barrett had a penalty at 50 metres out on the halfway, right in front, and they kicked to the corner when that would have taken them out to a 10-point lead. He had taken one from about 62, 63 metres, which is just to the left of the uprights. You've now got one at 50. That is go for gold time, especially when you're looking to stretch it out to 10 points.
And also because even if he misses it, it's a drop. It's a 22 dropout, which you get to run back again. Right?
Yep, that's it.
So
exactly, that was a poor option.
The Hurricanes are not the Brumbies, so you go posts, right? Especially when you're only 53% successful with your lineouts.
Yeah,
seriously,
that's it.
Do not
no, that was. And look, and the thing is that they played the Blues the week before, I think it was, and they kept taking their threes, and that's what kept them in touch with the Blues in that game. And so it's weird that when you're in a situation where you could go for three to get a 10-point gap, and they go for the kick into the corner, that was just bizarre to me.
Yep. Very strange one. You're right. You talk about those turnovers. 9 for the Hurricanes. The Crusaders conceded 17 turnovers. Ouch. In fact, they were still in this to win it. Shows you that's what a class team they are even when they make that kind of mistakes. We had quite a few clean breaks in this one. 8 by the Hurricanes, 6 by the Crusaders. So look, this was a fun game to watch. Now, let's talk about how the Hurricane, how the Crusaders, about the extra time of the game. you have a coin flip, and you get to choose. One team gets to choose to kick, and well, you get to choose. Do you want to kick or do you want to
kick?
And they chose to kick, right? Because the Crusaders, I'm assuming. I missed this. I was getting washing in, and quickly put the pitch wrong. So because I was expecting, I wasn't there yet. I had the whole thing, a bunch of stuff planned for at the end of the game. So the Crusaders won the toss, right?
Yes, yes. The Crusaders won the toss, and they decided to kick off.
Which, as we said earlier, is the right choice to make.
Choice to make. Yeah.
The choice then is you get to choose the other side gets to choose which way they want to go, which means you want to choose to have the wind at your back. Hurricanes. You don't want to be playing into the wind, do you? But you chose to play into the wind.
Into the wind. That was just. I can't. That is going to go down in the annals of history as the most amazing decision ever in a game of rugby.
So what we're seeing here, guys, is that the Crusaders last night saw the golden point thing and sat down and said, guys, what do we do under golden point? The Hurricanes last night watched the game and went, hey, that was fun, and went to bed and didn't plan what to do under golden point situation. And they made the wrong decision under pressure when they were tired, right? Then you've got a rookie, you've got probably the youngest halfback pairing in Super Rugby history on the pitch. And you ask your rookie halfback to box kick out. Now, I think that's kind of a standard thing to do because that's your normal exit. But
even you two, I can't remember what you said on the show, or whether you said it off or somebody said it. A box kick is the wrong option in that situation anyway. You want to basically kick the skin off it and get it far up the field as possible, and make sure you got your chasing line whilst the kicker puts their chasers on side, making sure we don't make that mistake again. But that's what you needed to pump that ball upfield and then basically get a chasing line to get out of your territory, because it only takes one penalty to lose the game, or a drop kick from right out in front.
And with Geordie Barrett, they've got a guy who can kick it a long way.
63 meters on the day.
That was the option they took. So again, not only did they choose the wrong direction, they also chose the wrong play to make, and he got charged down. Mo'unga then took it into contact, into a ruck, and everybody on the pitch is thinking and everybody off the pitch thinking Mo'unga is in the bottom of a ruck. Therefore, the Crusaders have to do 2 more phases before they can take a drop goal. And therefore, everyone switches off thinking that the drop goal isn't going to happen. The Crusaders, though, have thought this through, and they've deliberately put Mo'unga at the bottom of a ruck to make you do that, because that then gives Havili more time to make his drop goal. Not
everybody thought that was the case, because I didn't actually realise that Mo'unga was the one that'd been tackled in the ruck. So when I was watching it, I was thinking they've set up for the drop kick, because you could see they've got everybody out the way from around the ruck.
Yep.
So it was a clear passage for the halfback to pass back. So I actually thought, they're going for the drop kick. But that's because I'm no genius. Well, I am a genius, but that's a different story. It was the fact that I didn't realise that Mo'unga was at the bottom of the ruck. I just thought they're just going. Here they go. They're going for the drop kick.
I think a lot of people. Well, yeah, okay, but I realised it was the bottom of the ruck. And I thought, wow, they've given it to Havili to go for it. Wow, that's a brave choice. But yeah, clearly he's practiced that and he nailed it. Now,
well, we got to. Yeah, I think we probably don't think of Havili as a goal kicker as often as we should. I mean, for Tasman, he does a lot of their goal kicking. Especially, they do go for long range shots at goal. He's their big distance kicker, so he's no mug with the booting the ball around.
And look, he stepped up and played 10 for the Crusaders when they've had injury crises in the past. So yeah, we shouldn't have been surprised, but I think a lot of us were. We're thinking, look, Mo'unga is the guy who's going to take this. Keep an eye on Mo'unga. Where is he? And I think that's what the Crusaders did. So I think that's what the Hurricanes did. So again, smart thinking by the Crusaders in that situation, because they thought it through and played the scenarios the night before, so they didn't have to think about it there and then.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, and on the injury front, if there's a silver lining to the cloud for the Crusaders, you got Lester Whainukunuku there coming in, replacing Goodhue. I thought he came on and actually did quite well. You know, as a Blues fan, we've sort of lamented the fact that Rico, he's actually one of the top line breaks people on the lists of line breakers, and but he can't set up a sentence. Leicester came on, and it's easier to say Leicester, so I'm going to go with Leicester. Leicester came on and actually made the breaks, and then actually did feed his outside wingers and get them. So I think one of the passes that he made, he saw that George Bridge was marked in close, so he actually did the long ball pass over to Sevu Reece on the wing. So, it could just be a silver lining there for the old Crusaders there. Not that they need silver linings, but I thought Leicester came on and played a pretty good game, and we know the ball of muscle that he is that can take it up. He's also got a distribution game to go along with it.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting that the entire Crusaders back line outside of Moanga could all be back three players. Havili is traditionally a 15, but playing 12. You've got Lester Whainuku, who's definitely a winger playing playing centre. So we could end up with an entirely back line,
apart from the halfback and first five.
Yeah. So keep your eyes out for that next week and for the Crusaders. Ashwin, thank you so much. We've overrun, and again, because we do enjoy these. I enjoy these shows so much. Do join us on Tuesday. You've already heard a couple of things we're going to be talking about as we're going to be discussing Silver Lake again, by the sounds of things, and also is it good to have processions, or why does a dominant person like Woods, like the Chicago Bulls, work in some sports, but dominant Crusaders doesn't work so well in rugby? We'll talk about that on Tuesday night as well. So thank you, everybody who's joined us in the live chat. Been great to have you all there. Don't forget, you can support of New Zealand Sports Radio via patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. And because I do appreciate all the guys who do support me, and girls, and ladies and men, chimpanzees, dogs, cats, anyone else who supports me.
Whatever you identify as.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever you identify as. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, everybody. And I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing.